All right. Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Path Builder podcast series, where we speak to change makers, and as we like to call them, path breakers, who are working on their passion and purpose in the development sector. So, on today's episode, I have a good friend with me, Arjun. Very interesting career and has reinvented himself multiple times over the span of, well, I don't know how many years. I don't want to go into that. And this includes everything from hospitality to radio and learning and development. And in his most recent role was uh, basically facilitating leadership training for people who wanted to transition into the social sector and is currently undergoing training to become a leadership coach or kind of getting started with his own practice. So, Arjun, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Rachna. Happy to be here. Happy to connect with you and have this conversation. Excited.
Thanks.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks. Me too. So, I think I'm going to hand it over to you and maybe ask you
Mhm.
to share a little bit about yourself and
Okay.
maybe your initial career experiences, especially just talking about how you've actually been through these multiple changes over, I don't know, a decade or two. I'm not sure how old you are, so you'll
A
skip that.
little over a decade, yeah. Close to 15 years now.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. So over to you for that.
So thanks. In a nutshell, so if I have to give you like an overview, a helicopter view of what my career has been like since 2005. Um, so I started out in hospitality. I moved from hospitality to becoming a radio presenter, hosting a primetime radio show for 4 years. I produced radio shows. So 4.5 to 5 years in broadcast media. And then now a little over a decade in the training and development industry. So it's been quite an adventurous ride, going from seemingly unconnected dots, but finding connections, finding meaning, and then making something good about, wherever I've found myself, whichever beach I've found myself thrown onto. So it's been a it's been a random but very um, fulfilling, interesting, and adventurous career journey. And there's something in the randomness that makes it all the more exciting.
I think we'll definitely come back to that. There's something in the randomness that makes it all the more exciting. But I think before that, let's step back and talk to you. Also talked about sort of connecting the dots in a way, even though
Mm,
they were completely different spaces. Can you tell
yeah.
us a little bit about your experience in trying to kind of figure that out? Was it driven by your interest? Was it just driven by, uh, the opportunities that came up? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Um, Look, for a lot of us, I mean, I'm one of those types that didn't have a clear blueprint about, here's what I want to do straight out of college. Here's how I want to build my career in this particular field. And here are the, this is the trajectory I want to take, and these are the milestones. I never had any of that. And I know that there are a lot of people like me who who just have to figure things out on the go. Okay. Sometimes that happens because of the courses you've chosen. Sometimes that just happens because you've just not arrived at that moment of clarity while you're in college. So I'm one of those types. So I finished graduation and I had this $1 million question. And now there are a lot of books written with that title. What do I do with my life? What do I do with my career? What kind of career should I have? Right? That's the question. That's the central question. And so after I finished my graduation, I thought this question will come once, and if I, and when I after I work hard and answer it, it'll never come back again. But it just so happens that that question for some of us stays. I mean, throughout our careers, or at least for most part of our careers. So I finished studies, I mean, college, undergraduate, and then I said, okay, what do I do now? And it was more of a reaction to that question than a very informed response. What do I do now? I need to get a job. I need to start a career. So what's the best thing to do? So I was basically reacting to that question. So look for jobs everywhere, look for jobs in areas that interest me. And everything was this process of estimation, approximation. There was no, okay, I know the secret to this. So, and I had diverse interests. I have diverse skills and talents. I'm a musician, I'm a percussionist. So a large part of my, college years and after I was playing music, I was performing. Um, so somewhere my identity got constructed around a lot of the other things apart from academics. So music, sports, performing arts, creative writing, so on. So yeah, found my first job in the hospitality industry. Mm, Again, it was I just said, okay, I have a way with people. I engage with people well. I get along with people well. Maybe hospitality is the place to, look for a career. This was the rationale, not so, robust. It's just, okay, here's the rationale. Let me go test it out. So that's how I jumped into hospitality. Of course, unfortunately, I had to quit that industry because of a back injury. And after that, I studied for 2 years. I went and did my master's in mass communication. Again, not with any clear plan. The choice was made because I think a lot of the courses just aligned with some of the interests I had. So 2 years into my master's, after my master's, the same question pops up. What do I do with my life now? Now, what do I do with my life? Now, what do I do with my career? I've got a master's degree, you see. But yes, I mean, it's again back to square one. That question still remained unanswered. So by which time, of course, I'd done a lot of work in music. I was producing content for an internet music station. So I kind of dug my heels deep in music and performing arts. And somewhere I think decisions started to kind of flow through that filter. So again, in a random conversation with some musician friends, one of them, gave me an introduction to somebody in a radio station. So I just asked him, look, do you know somebody in radio? Because I've applied for jobs everywhere else. This is the only place where I haven't, this is the only door I haven't knocked on. So he said, yeah, I know somebody, I can put you onto them. So, okay. Friend connects me to his friend, and that turns into an interview for a job at a radio station. They discover some of my talents and they like it. And then they say, okay, 1 round, 2 round, 3 rounds, 4 rounds of interview. In the next 4 days, I'm a radio producer. So yeah, that's how, I mean, and then I had no intentions of hosting a radio show because music production was an area of strength. But then the company, at the point, I mean, they needed somebody urgently because one of the radio hosts had quit. So we were at a company offsite event, this gala event, and a lot of glitz and glamour. And then me and another colleague had to put up a stand-up comedy kind of performance, and we weren't given much time to prepare for it, just 10 minutes. So I'm this rookie, a new boy in a radio station, young chap learning the ropes. Suddenly now I have to get on stage and just host some stand-up comedy thing, which I've never done before. Somehow we pulled it off, and it became a laughing riot. People fell off their chairs, and then after that happened, the head of programs came to me and handed me my next job, saying, you're going to be hosting the primetime evening show along with this other colleague of yours from Monday. That's 2 days later. Okay. So I said, I just kept saying, okay, and in 3 days, I've moved from being a radio producer to a radio jockey. And then life just happened like that. And then from there, 4 years of that, and then a bell rang ahead saying, I'm doing so many interesting things as an entertainer, putting so many pieces of information together, engaging people, captivating their attention. making them feel light at the end of a heavy, serious day. Where else can this part of me shine outside of this showbiz industry? So that's the question that popped. That's, I think, for the first time when I started looking for a higher purpose in my professional life. I'm like, okay, there is this side of Arjun that might really shine elsewhere or might be needed elsewhere. Where the answer to that where was training and development. Can I help people figure their professional lives out? Can I help people discover their potential, live up to that potential? Those kind of exciting questions. So I jumped into training and development. And the last decade or more has also been a very adventurous journey in training and development. So that's how it flowed for me. It started somewhere, and here I am doing something like that looks totally unconnected, but there's so many strong connections.
I think, and it sound and when you're hearing it, I think it sounds like such a wonderful flow. And you're right. I mean, it might be completely different spaces, but I'm sure. I mean, the way you put it across was really interesting, and I think you can somewhere connect the dots there as well. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. It's uh, I think we'll maybe come back to some more questions later, but I'm what I'm kind of here taking away from this is that you can keep asking yourself, what do I do with my life at many points in your life, but at every stage you are going in with a lot more maybe experience, a lot more understanding of who you are and where you want to be, and also that it's okay to keep asking yourself the question. I think you can always navigate and figure out the way forward. It doesn't have to be completely connected to what you've been doing in the past. So I think that's a very interesting, I mean, that's what I take away from this.
And it's like this. Sometimes you choose the path, sometimes the path chooses you. Sometimes neither happens, and then things just work out. So it's been like that for me. And when I look back, at first glance, it seems very random, but I think what even this randomness had a certain rhythm and flow to it. There was a reason for this kind of randomness. These days I tell my friends, if I were to write a book on this or, publish something on this, someone asked me, what's a nice title what's a title you'd give for a book if you ever wrote one? I'd say it's Schooled by Randomness.
That sounds
Because
amazing. I think, and that's such a catchy title too.
because in this the life lessons came from this randomness. Because I started to wonder, wait, why am I going from hotels to radio to corporate training to e-learning to leadership development? How is all this happening? I mean, what is making all this happen? And things are working out. So that's when I started to take randomness also seriously. Randomness doesn't just, it's not like just splashing some color on a wall and then sitting and, wondering how did this happen. Um, there's a reason why things happen. I've I've learned all these insights have come to me in hindsight, looking back in the rearview mirror and saying, how on earth did this happen? You know, what made me make these choices? Um, and how did I end up doing well in a field that I never imagined I'd be in? Those became very interesting, points of self-discovery for me.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I think that's going to be definitely a pearl of wisdom for anyone who's listening. And
I hope so, because there's a lot of us, especially in our country, in the way we come out of the education system, a very competitive education system. We're kind of from a very young age, we're programmed for survival and competition and really making it to a milestone with thousands and millions of others vying for the same spot. So for a lot of us, career building is not a very linear methodical, sequential, like almost like a cookbook. This is the recipe, add a bit of this, add a bit of this, add a bit of that, let it, brew, and then your career is there. It's a messy journey in the trenches. Try this, try that, try this, try that, meet this person, connect with this person, figure this out. And then before you know it, you've spent a lot of time doing that and you're starting to discover, oh, wow, I didn't know this about myself. So mine is that kind of a journey.
Yeah, and I think very interesting cookbook analogy. It just reminds me that okay, life in generally isn't a textbook, so you need to kind of go with the flow and you learn how to figure it out. And of course, I think you need to build your capacity to do that, but I think you do learn how to navigate and figure it out. So, Arjun, I'm curious about your learning and development part of your career, especially
Mhm.
working with Amani Institute and focusing on helping other people figure out their careers or what they want to do in the space. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that experience was like? What were the highs and lows about doing that, doing the work?
Sure. So the entry into learning and development happened right after radio. So I moved into corporate training. I was running soft skills, behavioral skills programs for corporates, and I moved into e-learning, so digital learning. I was an instructional designer, designing online training for corporates in different verticals. And then in 2017, I made that shift back to working in person with people. I started to focus more on building programs, in building standalone programs, running training programs, designing new ones, and so coaching and facilitation. I mean, it just emerged. It emerged from the realization that here's what I'm good at. Um, I'm good at working in person with people, helping them through career challenges, professional challenges, or learning and development needs. And it came from that realization. So over the last 5 years, I've been doing this kind of work, which is building programs, training and development programs, open enrollment programs, custom training programs, career coaching, leadership coaching. Um, so that's how it emerged. And again, even this was again a very accidental discovery. It came from when I was in e-learning. I had colleagues very frequently reach out to me to discuss career challenges. I would very often be called to project meetings to mediate conflicts between team members. My project manager would reach out to me to just bounce off ideas of she was struggling with, again, conflict with team members or customers. So I started to become this go-to person for such things, while my official job was that of an instructional designer. So I had colleagues come up and tell me quite often, Arjun, you know what you're doing here with us in these conversations is really what you need to do out there in the world. So go and become a coach, go and become a motivational speaker, go back to being a facilitator. That's where the world needs you. So get out of digital learning. So that's how it happened. And yeah, my journey as a coach has been very, very fulfilling. I've started to realize that I have an innate ability to help people understand and navigate challenges. And the last 5 years have given me that opportunity um, to build programs, to build solutions for individuals, for organizations. Um, so it's been very, very interesting.
It
You
sounds,
were asking me what pitfalls and ups and downs,
yeah,
right?
basically
So,
the highs and lows.
well, I think in any, I think in any path there will be highs and lows. From a career building perspective, there can be a set of different types of highs and lows. So if you look at it from that lens, any career you choose,
So
you're
what was it for
basically,
you? Sorry, but what was it for you? I mean, in your experience as a facilitator and a coach so far,
Mhm.
what were some of the highs and lows for you? Like, what were the times when you said, "Oh my God, I love this job"? What were the times? What were like the challenging bits of it?
Okay, that's a nice question. So, what made me say I love this job is when I worked with people on challenges that are very real for them, whether that's helping a team with a certain challenge, helping an organization build a separate leadership program, or whether that's working one-to-one with somebody and being their career coach. I think the high comes from understanding a problem clearly, listening to people to understand them well, and then designing something that spoke to those needs. Whenever that's happened, right, it's like you've hit that sweet spot. I think that's the high. The high comes from knowing from the outcomes of your work that this positive outcome was possible because I understood the needs of that person or that organization well enough. So for me, that's a big high. When the design, almost demonstrates that we've understood the need well, and then we built something for that need. That's a high for me. Um, Challenges or lows, there are many kinds. For me, some of the times I've been, low or felt like, oh God, what's happening is when I think there are times when I've been disillusioned with this whole industry as such, the training and development industry. Um, Sometimes when I see that, anything and everything can, fly as a training program or a course, or if someone just reads a book and turns it into a course. When I see that, when I see that lack of genuine application, or that lack of depth, sometimes that puts me off. And sometimes the I think that's so I keep telling myself, how do I not be like this? Or how do I not fall into that trap of just going and running something? Because in training, right? In fact, I was having a conversation 2, 3 days ago with another friend who was asking me for inputs on how to, build a training program in their company. And I said, look, um, I can come there and make a training exciting for you, run a workshop that you'll remember for the rest of your life, and you'll have nostalgic memories of it, and you'll be telling all your friends and relatives, oh wow, what an amazing experience. But if it really has to make a difference, you have to remember that professional training and development is being done for meeting a certain business need or a professional need, right? So the ultimate test is, have I designed for actually meeting that need? If someone came to me and said, I want to build something to improve performance in a certain area, has that solution actually helped do that? Of if someone came and said, I need leadership coaching, or I need career coaching, have I been able to help those people address that specific problem? So yeah. And when that doesn't happen, in general, when I look at the industry as a whole, right? When I see a lot of things being done just for the optics, sometimes that can put me off. Sometimes you just have to, you can't always design the way you want. And design is not really about what the training designer wants to do. It's really about what needs to be designed. And there are there are compromises you need to make there, and that's also part of the part of one's own training as a coach or a facilitator. That is not about you, right? Wading through, so sometimes you won't find work that gives you those highs, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with sometimes just um, you know not being able to come out with the best dish. Yeah, those are some of the, I think, lows for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting. Thank you for sharing.